What is going on, guys? This is the Trips Wide Week 6 podcast presented by RotoQL. I am your host, Evan Cheney. Today, joined by Gary and Tom. How you guys doing today?
Doing great, Evan. Happy to welcome Tom back to the podcast. We missed you, man.
Yeah, Tom, we've missed your Dallas Cowboys insights. And just the greatness we get out of that. Although, do we have Tom? That Tom is questionable for this week.
Oh, easy come, easy go, I guess. Tom, are you there?
I see a head moving.
Hello?
Oh, you're here. All right. Can you hear us, Tom?
Yeah, I can hear you.
That's beautiful.
Perfect.
All right.
Let's go.
As long as we have you here, let's just optimize our time together. And let's just jump into these games. We have the San Francisco 49ers first going up against the Buffalo Bills. The Bills favored by 9 points right now with a total of 44 points in that game. No injury stuff to look at here. So let's just jump into the San Francisco 49ers offense here. And Colin Kaepernick is back into the starting quarterback spot there for the 49ers. And he's priced at $5K this week on DraftKings. So, Tom, I'm going to leave this one off to you here. What do are you liking Colin Kaepernick at that price? And if so, like what other pieces of that offense do you like?
I don't really like much about the offense. And the Bills' defense is playing good right now. You don't really know what you're going to get out of Kaepernick. I just don't see – I don't really want to jump in right now. You know, the Chip Kelly system isn't really a great system to come in, and you don't really want to go at it right away. There's a lot of moving parts to that offense, and he hasn't played in it yet. He didn't play well. I mean, you know, the Honey Badger was basically mocking him the last time Colin Kaepernick was under center. The Honey Badger basically said, "This guy can't throw over 15 yards. We're jumping every route that he throws." So when defensive players are mocking a quarterback, opposing defensive players, that's not a good thing. So is he better than Blaine Gabbert? I'll give him he's better than Blaine Gabbert. I don't know what kind of compliment that is, but he's going up against an aggressive Bills defense that's playing well. I'm going to stay away from San Francisco offensive players this week. I'm going to go the wait and see mode with San Francisco.
Okay, that's probably the best bet there. I mean, I don't know, maybe Jeremy Curley at 4K on DraftKings, but again, all of his production is really based off of what he's done with Blaine Gabbert and not really with, obviously he hasn't really done anything with Colin Kaepernick this season yet. So, that's more of a wait and see approach there. And Gary, with you, look at this Buffalo Bills offense here. They're projected for 26.5 points per Vegas right now. And there's some pretty decent options, I guess, that you can use with this Bills team here. So, what do you like about this Bills offense this week, if any?
Yeah, well, I love that their implied total is much higher than any other Bills game in recent memory. They're going up against a 49ers team that is first in pace, starting Colin Kaepernick, who hasn't played the game in a very long time, who by some reports was worse than Christian Ponder in practice. And with the strong defense they've been showing, I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities for this offense. LaShawn McCoy at 6,900, I think, is a cash and GPP staple. For me, Tyrod Taylor is a great play at 53. And the 49ers have allowed the fourth most 40-plus yard plays so far this season. So I'm looking to maybe a GPP flyer on Marquise Goodwin down at 3,000, considering that Sammy Watkins is out and they're going to have to get some wide receiver production somewhere. Him and Charles Clay at 29, I think, are some legitimate options to save some salary this week and also get some pretty high production.
Yeah, I can. LaShawn McCoy is probably one of my favorite running backs on the slate in the entire week because of how projected game script is supposed to go, and just with the sheer opportunities that LaShawn McCoy has seen this season. I really do believe that he can definitely have one of the better games amongst all running backs on the slate this week. So yeah, let's just jump into our next. Actually, before we jump into our next game, I want to share one point that I have, and the one point that I have is doesn't have anything to do with this game whatsoever. My narrative streak from last week worked, didn't it, Gary?
You're calling the Leif Erikson?
The Leif Erikson
Yes.
narrative
Yes.
kicked in last week, and history was on the Vikings' side. Although, the real discussion there is history really on the Vikings' side? That's a non-football related question, but that can certainly render a podcast of its own. Yeah, so let's just jump into it. I'm only mentioning it now because I know that the Vikings are on a bye week, and they don't give me an opportunity to talk about it. So I felt that was necessary.
There you go.
Yeah, so let's just jump into our next game here. We have the Philadelphia Eagles going up against the Washington Redskins. The Eagles are favored by 2.5 points right now in a game that has a 44.5 point total. Injury news to report on here. We have Jordan Reed, who is not going to play this week with a concussion, his fifth or sixth one in this many years. So that's really dangerous for him going forward, but that's really his problem, I guess. But yeah, Vernon Davis is filling his place there, and he makes for a great value play. But we'll get to that in a minute here. But Tom, I'm looking at my Eagles team here, and I just see fantasy goodness, especially with Brashard Breeland questionable for this week.
Yeah, I like quite a few Eagles this week. The Redskins, they struggle against running backs. And one area they struggle in is they allow over 6 receptions per game to running back. So this looks to me like a good week to start Darren Sproles. I know he's kind of hit or miss, but you look at the last couple weeks, 10 receptions from Sproles. They're getting him more involved in the passing game. And with the Redskins struggling to kind of cover running backs out of the backfield, I think Sproles is a good play. He's $500 cheaper than Matthews, but he's averaging 3.5 points more per week, on DraftKings. So Sproles to me is a good play. And last week I wasn't on the show. If I was, I'd be telling you how I had Zach Ertz and everything, DFS, redraft, and I'd be telling you how he had no chance, even though the Lions were last against tight ends. But everything in my history would have told you that Zach Ertz was going to catch 3 passes last week. It was just meant to be because I had him everywhere up and down. But I'm telling you, Zach Ertz will bounce back this week. I know he will. It was just he was meant to lay an egg. It was the Tom Casale curse. I had him all over the place. But he'll bounce back this week. Zach Ertz, put him in there. Don't be discouraged by last week. Zach Ertz. And if you're looking for a kind of a pump play, I think Nelson Aguilar. If you're looking for, I think he could provide a couple big plays this week. So I do like the Eagles. And Carson Wentz, another good play at quarterback. I think you can start him pretty much every week. I like Wentz again this week.
Yeah, I mean, with Carson Wentz, I know he's more of a cash game staple than a tournament play. Doesn't really have a ton of upside to him, but definitely has a very high floor. So yeah, he's definitely cash game-esque for me, at least for my purposes. And Gary should be aware of this too. But Philadelphia sports talk is just some of these people that listen to it, call into the show. They are some of the most ballsy people when it comes to just bold things that they have to say about things that occur in Philadelphia sports. Just like, the Eagles lose by 1 point last week, and all of a sudden 3-1 record means nothing. It's like, we're all of a sudden hunting for a low first round draft pick for the Browns, and the sky is falling. Like, no.
Yeah, bold calls. You could also say stupid calls. It's a very reactionary fan base, to be sure. What's not stupid is Tom's call on Zach Ertz. So he didn't perform last week, but he saw the volume. He only got 3 targets, but he played 83% of the snaps. The Redskins are 5th worst against the tight end. This is a perfect bounce back spot for him. So I will be playing him as well. I love the Sproles call. Ryan Matthews is in play for me as well. Redskins have not been good versus the running back. And then on Washington's side of the ball, with Jordan Reed in the concussion protocol, it's going to open up some opportunities elsewhere. We have the squeaky wheel narrative with Deshaun Jackson. Gruden is coming out and saying we need to get him the ball more. Deshaun Jackson is saying that he needs the ball more. Shocker there. But so you could play Deshaun, Jamison Crowder. He's currently 4th in red zone targets this year with 9. So he could get some more looks this week should Jordan Reed be out. So I would look to those two for Redskins production.
All right. Yeah, that's pretty sensible. You're talking about Deshaun Jackson has big play upside. Vernon Davis, though, I mean, I don't think you touched too much on him that I would, should, but he's 2,500 this week on DraftKings, and he's going to see a ton of opportunities this week with no Jordan Reed. So I really like him over there. He's probably going to be highly owned just because of name recognition that people have with him from his time with San Francisco. Just that name recognition will be there. And then Matt Jones maybe has a solid game here. I mean, he's a very volatile guy, but at 4K on DraftKings, I really do kind of like the spot for him, especially if people are going to be off of him this week. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Cleveland Browns going up against the Tennessee Titans. Right now, the Titans are favored by 7.5 points in the game that features a 44-point total. Right now, Cody Kessler is questionable with a rib injury, although Coach Jackson there has said that he's expected to play, so I'll take his word for it. And there's no injury news for the Titans here. So, Tom, are there Cleveland Browns players that are worth playing this week? I mean, you have Terrell Pryor, who's now all the way up at 6,100 on DraftKings, and I don't know if that price is justified anymore, but it could be this week in this spot against the Titans. And then Isaiah Crowell is a guy I like as well at 4,600.
Yeah, I think Crowell would be the guy I'd play. Pryor, that's kind of steep for me. Maybe he gets a little quarterback action in there near the goal line. I just, I was looking at him, but where his price point is, I like other receivers at that price. It's just a little steep for me at 6,100. I think you're looking at Crowell because I kind of thought, last week Duke Johnson might get some receptions in that game when they were down. He didn't get anything. So he's kind of a hit or miss guy. He might get more involved this week, but the Browns are kind of a mess right now. They're kind of tough. They're a tough offense to predict in DFS for me. I'll be honest. I was kind of hoping you'd give me the Titans here, but I mean, because the Browns defense struggles against everything. I mean, they're top 5 bad at everything. So the Titans are where you want to play here. But the Browns, I'm with you. I think you're looking at Crowell because I think they're going to try to run the ball. Pryor's a little bit overpriced, but he'd be the other guy here. Barnage, you're looking at about 10 or 11 points probably. There's nothing great here on the Brown side of the ball that I can see, unless Gary thinks I'm missing something.
No, I don't think you're missing anything, and I'm also going to veto Crowell. The Tennessee Titans have shown so far this year they have an elite run defense. They are second best in the league. So the only way you can really attack them is through the air. So Crowell is off the table. You can take a shot on Pryor, but I'm probably just avoiding Cleveland. For Tennessee, thankfully I got this team. DeMarco Murray has been a complete workhorse this entire year. We've seen his price constantly climb. At 7,700, it's getting a little bit expensive, but the production's there. He's getting so much work, and Cleveland is really bad against the running back. They're actually worst against the tight end, and we have a healthy Delaney Walker, so he's in play. Marcus Mariota came to life last week, which, if we're doing shout-outs to last week, I believe I called that. He got all those weapons back. He was a decent play. He put up 4 touchdowns. Now he gets a great matchup at home against Cleveland. He's in play for me at 61. And then you could take a shot on Tajay Sharp, but I'm going to go with the players that are a little bit more consistent. So Mariota, Delaney Walker, DeMarco Murray for me.
Yeah, DeMarco Murray's got 7 red zone targets. I mean, that ranks like fourth or fifth in the NFL. So he's getting passes down in the red zone besides carries. I mean, he's an elite play this week, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll third that, I guess, with the DeMarco Murray play. I really like that there. Delaney Walker, solid option. I mean, a Marcus Mariota Delaney Walker stack, it really isn't that crazy if you think about it. There is upside there. And personally, I don't think you get that tournament winning upside with Tajay, Kendall, or Rashard. So that's kind of where I'm going with that Tennessee Titans offense. Cash, I'll go DeMarco. GPP, I'll go Mariota Walker. So moving on to our next game here, we have the Baltimore Ravens going up against the New York Giants. Right now, the Giants are favored by 3 points in a game that has a 45-point total. Injury notes here, we have Mike Wallace, who is questionable with a rib injury, has been limited in practice all week. Steve Smith looks to be doubtful for this game with an ankle injury, hasn't practiced all week. It just isn't looking to be in play there for the Ravens there. And then Rashard Jennings looks to be coming back from that thumb injury because he does say that he plans to play. So Rashard Jennings is back in play there for the Giants. So let's just look at this Ravens offense here. And Gary, I'll hit you up there first. I mean, if Steve Smith is out, who benefits?
Well, so it's not just even Steve Smith. Mike Wallace is currently in non-contact jerseys during practice. So you could potentially be down 2 starting wide receivers, opening the door for guys like Kamar Aiken, who have been buried on the depth chart, and Rashard Perryman, who's been getting 4 to 5 targets a game. I would probably look to him for immediate production if both wide receivers are out. If one of them is in, I am not going to take a chance on Perryman or Aiken. But the targets will have to go somewhere, and the Giants are 4th worst currently against wide receivers in PPR leagues. So I'm kind of hoping they're both out so I can get some cap savings with Perryman and possibly Aiken. Dennis Pitta would be a lot more attractive if we haven't seen the emergence of Crockett Gilmore. Pitta's currently tied for 3rd in targets per game. So he's not a bad tight end play. And if one of the wide receivers is out, you can pencil him in for at least that many targets that he's been getting. So for me, it's Dennis Pitta. And then if the wide receivers are out, take a shot on Aiken and Perryman.
Definitely get behind you there. Terrence West is a guy he's 5K right now on DraftKings. I think he's kind of worth a shot. He's had some decent games. The game against the Raiders a lot better than the Redskins, but still, he's had some decent outings recently, and maybe he has somewhat of a shot here. I don't know. Just kind of a thought that I have in my head. Tom, going to you here. You have a Baltimore Ravens defense here that has a very high public perception based on everything that went on in the mid-2000s. I mean, I don't know why people still think it's the mid-2000s, but, that's not my problem to really consider here. So, who are some of these guys on the Giants offense here that you like this week?
Well, if you're going by Ben McAdoo, I guess it's Bobby Rainey. He thinks he's got the next Marshall Faulk. If you look at the last 2 games, because you guys live in Philly, I live in New York, and Ben McAdoo's doing a terrible job of coaching. He's got 3 wide receivers in Beckham, Shepard, and Cruz, who in the last 2 games have 19 receptions between them. Bobby Rainey has 13. That's an embarrassment. McAdoo's doing a terrible job of coaching. They got all this money invested in this team. The offense is conservative. I don't want to hear about the offensive line. They should have Eli Manning taking shorter steps and getting the ball out quicker then. Offenses would kill to have those 3 receivers. You're not throwing to them in the red zone. So, I'd like to tell you to play these receivers.
Good Lord. The entire Google company should be arrested for what just happened. All right, so to to Tom's point, I don't know why it took me like 3 tries to say that, but to Tom's point, he is very right in saying that, if any other team in the league had Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, and Odell Beckham Jr., they'd be dominating right now offensively. But the Giants are struggling, producing offense with 3 very solid receivers. So, I definitely see Tom's point there. He's having some internet connection issues. Hopefully he fixes them, or hopefully they're fixed, whatever. So yeah, that is a very good point on Tom's end to justify some of the crap that's going on there with the Giants.
I don't think we're looking anywhere on the Giants this week.
No. That was a very long explanation to say don't use Giants players. All right. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Carolina Panthers going up against the New Orleans Saints. Right now, the Panthers are favored by 2.5 points in a game that features a 53-point total. A good chunk of injuries to talk about here. We have Kelvin Benjamin, who's questionable for this week with a knee injury. He's been limited in practice all week, so we'll see what happens there. Right now, Jonathan Stewart is questionable with a hamstring injury, rather, but he's apparently definitely ready to play for this week. Cam Newton is certainly a go for this week, but he is still questionable on that injury report with a concussion, but again, looks to be in. And then Mark Ingram is dealing with an illness. He did miss practice on Thursday, so that's something to look out for over there. Gary, I guess I'll start off with you. I don't know where Tom went. I guess his thing lagged out on us. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about the Panthers first. And, with Cam Newton back into that offense, there's certainly going to be much better flow than we saw on Monday night against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I'm happy that Cam's back. Things are a little bit more predictable when he's behind center. We know if the Panthers are going to do well, which they usually do against the Saints because they're an awful defense, we're going to see touchdown production coming from Cam Newton, either running or passing. So 8,100, I'm liking him for tournaments. I don't think there's a need to pay up for in cash, but there's a lot of great options below him, so Cam's ownership should be a little bit lower. If Kelvin Benjamin is healthy, I like that connection, Cam to Kelvin. You can also throw in Greg Olsen at 7,000. That has been a very productive connection against the Saints in the past. No reason for it to stop this week. Those are the only 3 plays for me. The running back situation is too convoluted for me, and I could just see Cam vulturing at the goal line. So if I'm playing anybody, I'm getting exposure through those 3.
Smart man. Very smart man. Jeez, I had a thought in my head, but I don't know what it was. All right, yeah. So while I try to figure out what it was, I do agree with that point. And, Cam Newton, Kelvin, Greg Olsen, great stack. Maybe you can pivot off and maybe use a guy like Ted Ginn or Devin Funches, who are cheaper. Don't get a ton of targets, but have the ability to maybe sneak one in, blast it through that Saints defense, which is just awful. I mean, that defense is terrible. Right? So that's something definitely look out for the Panthers. And then for the New Orleans Saints, I mean, what a lot of people are not going to realize, which is pretty obvious, but Drew Brees is at home. Okay? He's at home going up against a very bad Carolina Panthers secondary. Right? So Drew Brees is probably going to be lower owned of these 2 quarterbacks, and for no reason. I think Drew Brees is in the better spot here, if anything. Much better tournament spot, cash game spot, you name it. I think he's going to do better this week than Cam.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both in great spots. They're both at the same price point. Kind of pick who you think is going to win the game, but Drew Brees is definitely in play. His connection to Brandon Cooks has proven to be very effective at home. Kobe Fleener is coming into his own. They're talking about how he understands the playbook now. So he's in play. I'm not really looking to to Mark Ingram only because the Saints have shown a propensity to do creative things at the goal line. We've known this for years. They will do play action passes and throw it to a tackle or to a fullback, or do weird things that make you go crazy as a Mark Ingram owner. So I'm not going to pay $6,000 for him when there's other plays at that price point like Lamar Miller or LaShawn McCoy. So for me, it's Drew Brees to Cooks, Drew Brees to Fleener. Yeah, those are my plays.
As they should be. I mean, Willie Snead. Don't forget about Willie Snead. The guy is definitely doing a lot better injury-wise, with the toe. And, he only saw one target in their last game against the Chargers. He caught that target for 23 yards. But yeah, I think Willie Snead has a great game this week as well. And it's, as far as regular football is concerned, it's going to be a pretty ho-hum. I mean, you got two pretty bad teams going up against each other. So, But fantasy-wise, this is just going to be, it's going to be what the kids call lit. All right, so just watch out for that one. All right, our next game here is the Jacksonville Jaguars going up against the Chicago Bears. The Bears are favored by 2.5 points right now with a 46-point total. Right now, Julius Thomas is questionable in this game with an elbow injury, although he has practiced in full all week, so he should be a go. And Eddie Royal is questionable with a calf injury. He did not practice on Thursday. So, yeah, keep that in mind. So let's look at this Jaguars offense first, and really the only play I can look at and say it's a good play in any justifiable way is Allen Robinson, who I do like a little bit more on FanDuel than I do on DraftKings, but still, he's very expensive, but I do see the upside in him.
Yeah, I was initially really high on Robinson, but the fact that Julius Thomas is coming back makes me nervous about spending $7,800 on him. At that price point, I like Kelvin Benjamin more. But he's certainly not a bad play. He's getting all the red zone targets. When the Jags get him inside the 20-yard line, they're looking to Robinson. And so you can't go wrong there. I think I would get my exposure to this offense through Blake Bortles because I don't know with Hearns, Robinson, and Julius Thomas all healthy, I don't know where the touchdown production is going to come from, but I'm assuming it's going to come through the air because this is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and that is what they do. So a naked Bortles stack for me is fine for tournaments. And on the other side of the ball, I read an interesting stat today that the Jaguars have allowed less than 200 yards passing on average so far this season, which kind of boggled my mind considering they play teams like the Colts and the Packers. So I'm starting to think that maybe this defense that they've invested a lot of top picks is starting to come around. So this passing attack, I'm off Brian Hoyer. I think this is the week that he comes back down to earth. Alshon Jeffrey's market share is way too low. And with this matchup, I'm not looking to be contrarian in that spot. Cameron Meredith is probably the only person I'm looking at 4,100. We've seen the volume that he can get, and with Kevin White out, which should probably continue. His price point makes it attractive. The Jaguars are I believe, fourth best versus the tight end in PPR leagues, which takes Zach Miller out of consideration for me. So I'm only looking at Meredith.
Yeah, 4,100 for Meredith. He's definitely a top guy to use there. And then Zach Miller at 3,800 is certain. You can certainly justify playing him as well. I mean, he saw 8 targets last week, catching 7 of them for 73 yards. Had a very solid game there against the Colts. So I like him as well this week in that spot against the Jaguars. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Los Angeles Rams going up against the Detroit Lions. The Lions are favored by 3 points right now in a game that features a 44-point total. 2 injuries to look at here, both on the Lions side. Theo Riddick is questionable this week with an ankle injury, has not practiced all week. And Eric Ebron is questionable as well with knee ankle and back injuries. He has not practiced all week and looks to be out again for week 6 against the Rams here. So, Gary, the only guy I really like here for the Rams is Todd Gurley, and even that's a stretch. I don't even like the double dip this week with Tavon Austin.
Yeah, definitely not looking for the double dip. The Lions defense showed me something, or the Lions offense, excuse me, showed me something last week against the Eagles, whose defense was superb for the first 3 weeks of the season. I mean, Tavon Austin's super cheap and is like 50% of the offense. So if you need somebody to plug in at that price, he's not a bad play. He's just not someone I'm kind of seeking out. Gurley, we're waiting for that explosion game. I'm not sure that this is the place you want to do it. Detroit's run defense has been pretty good. And the Rams line is kind of banged up. So I probably won't be playing any Rams this week.
Yeah, that's probably your best bet there. So let's look at this Lions offense now. And, Marvin Jones is in a fantastic spot this week. Hill, who's the I don't even know what his first name is, but
Troy Hill.
Troy Hill. That's what it was. I was blanking on it for a second. So yeah, Troy Hill here for the Rams. As far when compared to 115 qualifying cornerbacks in the NFL, and ranking them and whatnot, Troy Hill is 114th per Pro Football Focus when it comes to how well he's been playing. So, Troy Hill's been the second worst cornerback in all of football, and he's going up against the Marvin Jones, who, with Megatron's retiring, Marvin Jones has just stepped up in that spot for the Lions. He's really paying off there. And at 7,200, I really like the play this week, especially if you pair him with Matthew Stafford. One more thing I kind of want to look at here. If Theo Riddick is out or, limited in any way, because, again, he hasn't practiced all week, Zach Zenner at 3,000 looks to be a guy who I kind of like here. Last week, he saw 7 rushing attempts for 9 yards, and then he saw 2 targets, catching 2 of them for 23 yards. So not explosive there, but still at 3,000, he's certainly worth a look if he gets a bump in usage for this week.
Does it concern you that they signed Justin Forsett at all?
See, I didn't think about that until you said it. So that really throws me off. So Zach Zenner is just out of the equation.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Justin Forsett, just all the Justin Forsett in that situation then.
I mean, I'm trying to make sense of the running backfield for Detroit, and there's just too many question marks for me. I will look elsewhere. With Theo Riddick's injury, the signing of Forsett, Dwayne Washington's trying to come back. You got Zach Zenner. It's just too much. I love your call of Marvin Jones. I think Stafford to Jones is a pretty good stack this week. The Rams defense has shown itself to be very good, but it's banged up on both the line and in the secondary. So that's a pretty high upside stack that will be very low owned. I like that in tournaments.
Yeah, good stuff there. All right, let's look at our next game here between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins. Right now, the Steelers are favored by 7.5 points in a game that features a 48-point total. Some injury notes here. We have Eli Rogers, who's questionable this week with a toe injury, although he has been practicing in full this week, so he might be progressing his way back into the lineup there. And then Sammy Coates is questionable this week with a hand injury. He has not practiced all week, so his participation in this game is a lot more in the air than Rodgers. And then Arian Foster on the Dolphins looks to be coming back from that groin injury, should play this week against the Steelers, so we'll talk about him when we get over there for the Dolphins. But, I mean, let's just look, I just look over to the left here with the Steelers offense, and I see that Antonio Brown is priced at $10K. He's priced at $10,000. That is the highest in my 3 years of playing NFL DFS. That is the only time I've ever seen a position player priced at $10,000.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. I wonder if Antonio Brown has been told this and he views this as an accomplishment to be priced in the 5 digits. But I don't know. It kind of takes him off the table for me. It's just so much to spend on somebody. He's got to put up like 40 points for it to be worth it.
I mean, 40 points would be, your tournament value for him. I mean, even in cash, if he gets 20, eh,
I mean, I'm looking for 3 times value in cash. He,
yeah.
he needs 30. That's just it's so much to ask for.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when he's on the road against Miami. I don't really like any of these Pittsburgh offensive players this week. Um, but maybe Le'Veon Bell would be the only play. Other than that, I don't really like the Steelers offense when they're on the road.
Oh yeah, give me Le'Veon Bell this week. I'm super high on him finally finding the end zone this week. He's been putting up 25 fantasy points without pay dirt the past 2 weeks. I think we finally see the Le'Veon breakout game, and I think we talked about this last week, and they kind of have the same volume and same touchdown expectancy. Him and Antonio Brown. It just so happens that he's priced $2,000 cheaper. The smart play on the Steelers is Le'Veon Bell. So I will have high exposure to him.
Good stuff, smart stuff. Uh, yeah, so that's definitely a play there. And then for the Miami Dolphins offense here, Jarvis Landry at 6,800 really pops out to me. Was targeted 3 times last week, caught all 3 of them, but only for 28 yards. So he really let a lot of people down last week when Landry was up against the Tennessee Titans. I do like him this week just because the Steelers give up a good chunk of fantasy points against opposing wide receivers. That's what we've been seeing throughout the season. And then Arian Foster coming back into that run game. I think that'll open up a lot for the Dolphins. But Gary, I want to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I like Landry coming off a very disappointing week. We've also seen Ryan Tannehill suck for like 2 straight weeks now, which is kind of normal for Ryan Tannehill to have some ups and downs, but he's been really bad lately. So I'm not going to play him, but that concern coupled with Landry disappointing people last week means that Landry is a great play this week. Just like you said, Steelers especially on the road, give up a lot of passing yards. So Landry is a good bet for a solid game this week. Arian Foster, I am not really interested in. I would probably need to know some more info about his return from injury before I played him.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That that logic kind of makes sense with Foster. Just trying to see if he's ready to come back and fully dive into this offense here for the Dolphins. So I'll just take a wait and see approach, just in the same way you probably are, with Foster in that situation. Moving on to our next game here, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going up against the New England Patriots. Right now, the Patriots are favored by 8 points in a game that features a 47.5-point total. Injury notes here. I mean, Tyler Eifert looks to be closer to coming back, but maybe not just yet. Next week might be the time that finally happens. AJ Green has been dealing with a calf injury, but he looks like he's a go for this week. And Martellus Bennett for the Patriots is questionable, has been limited in practice this week with an ankle injury. So he's someone worth monitoring for that game. Looking at the Bengals side of the ball, I don't like anyone on this team whatsoever. AJ Green is the only guy with a ton of upside on this team, and that is severely limited just because he's going up against the Patriots this week, who, Bill Belichick likes to plan against these guys, and he shuts them down very well. So I don't think AJ Green has a very good game here, and thus I don't think the Cincinnati Bengals have that good of a game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Belichick takes away the number 1 option very well. The only play I would consider is Brandon LaFell at 32. He's the wide receiver opposite AJ Green, and he's actually 10th in the league in red zone targets with 7 so far this year, which kind of boggles my mind. I'm not really sure how that happened. But we've seen this upside last week. I think he had 25 fantasy points, and at $3,200, that's not a bad way to get some salary cap relief. On a normal week, I probably wouldn't be looking here. But the way I'm constructing my rosters with some high-priced running backs, I need some value wide receiver plays. And right now, as it stands, he's kind of one of the options I have. So I will probably have him in some lineups.
That is just something.
Yeah.
That,
Who knows? Strategy might change over the weekend, but as it's going right now, there's so many good high-priced running backs that I can see a lot of volume. I need some cheap wide receivers, and hey, LaFell starting a 2 wide receiver going against Bill Belichick, who takes away the number 1 option. Not a bad play.
okay. Look at this Patriots team here. I mean, definitely the offense. You know, with Tom Brady back there, he had a very good game last week against the Browns. Had 32.6 fantasy points, throwing for 406 yards and 3 touchdowns. I don't think he has that good of a game this week. I mean, you know, in terms of doing that again, but you know, definitely he can have a solid game again. You know, maybe throwing it to guys like Rob Gronkowski. You know, definitely if Martellus Bennett is affected this week, and James White as well. Those are guys I like for tournaments. Julian Edelman is very solid for cash. I think last week was kind of an anomaly, if anything. So, you know, look for those guys to really do well for you this week.
Yeah, I got a stat for you. So, only Detroit has allowed a higher touchdown rate, being defined as touchdowns per pass attempts, than Cincinnati. So, although Cincinnati's defense is kind of thought to be very good, they're very inefficient against the pass, especially in scoring situations. So, I love Tom Brady in tournaments because the allure of the Cincinnati defense is that it's pretty good. That stat seems to say that there is some pretty high upside. And Tom Brady at home, for the first time since his 4-game suspension in front of the Boston fans, I could see this game being a huge FU to Roger Goodell and to the league and to everybody who doubts them as a team. And so I will have I'll have a lot of Brady exposure. I like your call on James White. I believe we saw last week that Tom Brady likes a back that can catch the ball out of the backfield. That removes Blunt from the equation. And until Dion Lewis comes back next week, that's a hint for anyone playing season long. You should go out on your waiver wire and get Dion Lewis if he's still out there. Until he comes back, James White is going to be heavily involved, probably about 50 to 60% of the snaps in this game against a pretty stout run defense.
Fully agree with you there. Yeah, solid call. Yeah, so that leads us into our next game here between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders. Right now, the Chiefs are favored by 1 point in a game that features a 47-point total. Jamal Charles looks to be coming back there. The only other injury note to look at here, other than Latavius Murray being out again with the toe injury, is Clive Walford is questionable this week with a knee injury, although he did practice on Wednesday and Thursday. So he looks to be a go for this week there. I don't know, Gary. Let me hear your thoughts on some of these Kansas City Chiefs offensive guys.
I love this game for fantasy production. I don't think either defense is going to effectively shut down the other offense, so we're going to see some pretty high upside. Jeremy Maclin has had some big games against the Raiders in the past. I like him as a quick, speedy guy who's the prototype of what the Raiders haven't been able to cover this year. Alex Smith at 5,700, I think, is fine for cash. Jamal Charles is coming back at 5,100. If you want to take a chance on him, and they're saying they're speaking out of 2 sides of their mouth so far this week. They're saying that he's 110% healthy, and then at the same time, the offensive coordinator says that they're going to sprinkle him back into the offense. So I'm not entirely sure what they're going to do, but it might be worth a play that they basically just turn the reins over to him in his second week back and just let him go. And at which point he would be a great play at 5K. Travis Kelce is having a record season so far in targets and production. He's 5th in red zone targets with 8 so far among tight ends. I think you can look to any 4 of those guys for production on the Kansas City side.
Can fully agree with you there. And then, let's take a look here at the Oakland Raiders offense. Um, I don't know. The Chiefs are sometimes susceptible to a good passing game, and I think Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, and Michael Crabtree make for an excellent stack this week. Yeah, quarterback, 2 wide receiver type stack. And, the running back situation for Oakland, as everyone was, informed of last week, DeAndre Washington is kind of a trap, because he's 4,200, has a ton of value theoretically there, being the quote unquote lead running back in that situation. But he hardly touched the ball at all. I mean, I saw something on Twitter. It was like, Jacquizz Rodgers touched the ball more in the first quarter on Monday night than DeAndre Washington did the entire game. So I'm totally off that situation like I was last week, and I'm just going to go with my Carr, Crabtree, Cooper stack.
Yeah, completely agree. Good points.
Good thing that we agree on that. I like it. So looking at our next game here, we have the Atlanta Falcons going up against the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are favored by 6.5 points right now in a game that has a 45.5 point total. 2 injury notes to look at here. We have Julio Jones, who's questionable this week with a knee injury, although he has confirmed that he'll play on Sunday, so that's kind of irrelevant then. And Tyler Lockett is questionable this week with a knee injury as well. And Pete Carroll said he wants to give Tyler Lockett a bigger role in week 6 of the season here. So, I guess the injury is not too much of a concern there in Seattle for Lockett either. I don't know. When I'm looking at this Falcons offense here, I'm just fading everyone because they're unlike last week where, there were indicators as to, the Falcons just ripping through that Broncos defense. There are just no indicators here for the Falcons to do anything against the Seahawks.
Yeah, I'm with you. Atlanta's a complete fade for me. They do play at the 3rd highest pace in the league, but I don't think they're going to find a lot of production this week, which leads to a lot more possessions and time and opportunities for everyone on the Seattle side of the ball. So I'll jump into that. I love a lot of people for the Seahawks this week. Russell Wilson, Doug Baldwin, Jimmy Graham, Tyler Lockett. They're all in play for me. Lockett being the sneakiest of the bunch. He's been injured. They're saying that his knee is healthy, like you mentioned at the intro of this game. At 3,600, a Tyler Lockett, Seattle Seahawks pairing. I do like that in tournaments. Jimmy Graham has shown himself to be a key part of this offense. The Falcons are, I believe, still down 4 linebackers, which leads to production at both the tight end position and the running back position. So Jimmy Graham and Christine Michael are also in play for me this week. I still need to decide whether I want to weight the passing attack more or Christine Michael more this weekend, but I don't think you're going to go wrong with either choice.
No. And I mean, really, with this game, it's like it's a game that has a ton of appeal for real life football usage. And, I wish this was the nationally televised game and not Packers Cowboys. I mean, I have Sunday tickets, so it doesn't really matter for me. But still, I mean, there's no reason that they need to show the Packers and the Cowboys a ton of times. It's just
as a Vikings fan, you can take the Packers off anytime, and I will be happy. So
I mean, again, these are part of my hypothesis as to why the NFL ratings are down.
Yeah, no one cares about the Packers. Get them
no, or the Cowboys. I mean, Tom would be killing us right now, but he's not here. So
by the way, for the listeners, we've gotten confirmation Tom is not coming back. You are stuck with us for the rest of the podcast.
Yeah, he tore the ACL. Questionable to return, but doesn't seem likely. Yeah. All right, let's roll into our next game here. We have the, for lack of a better term, the shit show. That is the Dallas Cowboys and the Green Bay Packers. Right now, the Packers are favored by 4 points in a game that features a 47-point total. Dez Bryant is questionable in this game with the knee injury, but he has practiced this week, both days. and he's done it without any wraps or braces on that knee. So I think he'll be a go for that game. And then for the Packers, they have a nice chunk of injuries here to talk about. Randall Cobb being one of them. He's dealing with a neck injury, but he has practiced this week, and he seems to be a go. Eddie Lacy is questionable this week with an ankle injury, although Mike McCarthy over there is saying that the ankle's fine. He'll be playing on Sunday, so that's no concern there. But James Starks might be the only guy in this Packers team that might have injury issues that keeps him out of the game. He's dealing with both knee and personal issues. I don't know what personal issues means in this case, but he's dealing with that. So James Starks will probably not be playing in this game, but don't quote me on that. So let's look at this Cowboys offense here. And, if Des Bryant is back in the fold here, I really like him this week, and as well as Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, this might be our first disagreement. I am pretty high on the Packers defense here. We've been watching two rookies lead the Cowboys offense to glory for about 5 weeks now. I think going to Lambeau Field against a team that doesn't allow Ezekiel Elliott to dictate the offense, they're really good against the run. I think this is the first game that we see the Cowboys stumble, which is good news for Tony Romo and his supporters. But for our purposes, I'm only looking to Jason Witten. The Green Bay Packers have been pretty bad against the tight end so far this year. But I am not looking to Dak Prescott. I am not looking to Ezekiel Elliott. I am looking to the Packers side of the ball this week.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. A bad game from Dak Prescott and a justification to put Tony Romo into the game. I think that's what gets Jerry Jones up in the morning. Doing everything possible to piss off Cowboys, which is fine by me because everything Jerry Jones does is pretty much the wrong decision to make. So
I agree with you.
So I'm fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean they've been doing so well. I at some point they're not they're not just gonna completely run over the entire league. I think this is a pretty good trap game, so I will be staying away.
Exactly. I can get behind the logic, especially if they're in Lambeau. And then let's look at this Green Bay Packers offense here where, both running backs are dealing with injuries and their own issues. Eddie Lacy, maybe he can get in, but Eddie Lacy's never really been good. I mean, let's be real here. An Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson stack is right up my alley. They're both expensive. Aaron Rodgers being 7,300 and Jordy Nelson being 8,000, but still, I really like the stack there this week.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Jordy Nelson. I love Aaron Rodgers. And tight end Richard Rodgers, with Jared Cook still out, I think he's a pretty decent punt play at the position.
Yeah, 2,900. I mean, I prefer Vernon Davis at that point, but again, Richard Rodgers is going to go lower owned, so he's probably the better tournament play for that reason. And
the Cowboys are fourth worst versus the tight end in PPR leagues so far this year.
I did not know that. So yeah, that makes Richard Rodgers even a better play at that point. So let's dive into our last game here between the Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Right now, the Texans are favored by 3 points in a game that has a 48.5 point total. The only injury note to look at here is Will Fuller is questionable this week with a hamstring injury, and he has been limited in practice all week, so just watch out for that. Let's look at this Colts offense here where T.Y. Hilton is just dominating ever since Dante Moncrief's injury. Last week, Hilton had 11 targets, catching 10 of them for 171 yards and a touchdown, scoring 36.1 DraftKings points. I just love what he's doing. Gary.
Tom's gone, Evan.
Yeah, I know.
He's not coming.
Pain's killing me. But I mean, what else? What other factors for this Colts offense here are you liking for this week?
You mentioned it, T.Y. Hilton, and that's really it. I'm kind of high on the Texans defense this week at home in prime time. They are best against the wide receivers as a defense, and the Colts' strength is their wide receiver and passing game. So I feel like this is a good matchup for them. Frank Gore is too old to punish them for playing the pass. So I really not looking to target anybody on the Colts. T.Y. Hilton is a smart play just because his usage, like you said, has been spiked with Dorsett, Moncrief out and Dorsett not really filling that role. But yeah, on the Houston side of things, I am excited to finally see the Lamar Miller breakout game. The Houston Texans are one of only 5 teams whose running backs account for at least 60% of the team's touches. That hasn't turned into a lot of fantasy production for Lamar Miller yet, but it will. He's finally got a nice matchup against the Colts, and after an abysmal matchup against the Vikings last week, I think we're going to see a nice rebound for him here. Will Fuller and Brock Osweiler.
Better check your smoke detectors.
This offense.
I mean, fire prevention day is on Saturday.
Stack this entire offense. Lamar Miller, Will Fuller, Brock Osweiler. It's going to be hot fire. And then the Texans defense. Do the entire game. I think that's what the universe is telling us right now.
I think that's what that fire alarm was for. Or the smoke detector. Yeah, so do that. Very smart call there. So that'll wrap it up for our games here. And Gary, you get the first pick in our tournament lineup selection here. Last week, our tournament lineup actually scored 180.8 points.
Boom.
So it did very well last week. I know we made some great calls, and let's make some even better calls this week. So Gary, you're on the clock.
Let's start with the running back position. Put Le'Veon Bell at 7,900 against the Dolphins in.
Sounds like a plan. So we have Le'Veon Bell in the lineup so far. Where do we go from here? Where's the value? We've been talking about it the whole time, and I'm still asking myself.
That's the tough part this week.
Yeah, it's like there's not a ton of value to be had. Right.
Hopefully injuries over the weekend will open it up for us, but right now you kind of really have to pick your spots.
Exactly. I think maybe a spot that I'll pick on simply for the salary cap relief and whatnot, I'm going Isaiah Crowell.
Whew.
I like the GPP upside that he does have, and maybe Tennessee lets up a big run in this game, and I think that's where Isaiah Crowell shines.
All right. Hey, it's a tournament lineup, so can't be too contradictory. Let's do LaShawn McCoy in the flex.
Oh, man, we're just taking all the running back choices.
6,900. So there's an average of 5,100 left.
All right, so I'll start off the other positions. All right, so we have 5,100 on average. I don't know. Again, it's just there's so much or so little value. I guess I'll go on tight end here and use Zach Ertz.
Ertz, the bounce back.
Yeah, I'm calling Zach Ertz on a bounce back here.
I like it.
Yeah.
To wide receiver, let's go with a player who's always low owned, but against a really inefficient defense. That is Jeremy Maclin at 6,300 versus the Raiders.
I like the call. All right, so we have that, an average of 5,075 left per player. And let's go quarterback. I'll try to find a guy with some upside here in the lineup. And I really like let's go Derek Carr I'm feeling
Okay.
something from Derek Carr this week.
I like it. We're game stacking now. So we got Derek Carr versus Jeremy Maclin. Let's give Carr a target. We have Marcus Peters as the good cornerback for the Chiefs. I would imagine he would be shadowing Cooper for the most part. So let's go with a security blanket and Crabtree at 6,900.
All right, so we have him locked and loaded. We have wide receiver and defense left. Let's go cheap defense with possible upside to it. And I don't know where you even would find that. Let's go Lions defense. I kind of like the upside that they have. So we have 3,900 for a receiver. Or you have 3,900 for. I'm not dealing with that.
Yeah. So we don't have exposure to the Panthers Saints game. The big play threat for the Panthers is Ted Ginn Jr. Let's hope that Ted Ginn does not drop the 70-yard target that he's bound to get during this game, and we'll pencil him in at 3,900.
All right, so that's our tournament lineup. We have Derek Carr, Le'Veon Bell, Isaiah Crowell, Jeremy Maclin, Michael Crabtree, Ted Ginn Jr., Zach Ertz, LaShawn McCoy, and Lions defense. So that is our tournament lineup, and that'll do it for us today. I am your host, Evan Cheney, joined by Gary Huber, and at one point in this, Tom Casale. Don't know what's going on with him. We'll certainly harass him on that later on. So good luck in your contest this week, guys. And if we're not winning all the money, we hope you are. So play well and build good lineups.
See ya.